episode of our Bridgesimton Challenge. We are back in with our royal family, and this is Nikolas Harrington, the heir to the throne. As we know, in our last episode with the royal family, he had made great strides in meeting his skills for entering into the marriage market, and the only thing that he lacks is his dancing skill, his singing skill, and his etiquette skills. So we are going to be working on that again in this episode, as well as getting him working towards his high school, getting his grades up and things of that nature. He is feeling currently really energized. He is loving school and he's loving his home, but he is kind of feeling a little bit overly emotional. He's kind of got his emotions all over the place, but I think that's to be expected considering the fact that he is a teenager. And so we are going to be seeing him kind of going through some crazy emotions when it comes to him just being a teen and dealing with the overwhelmingness of, I think, being an heir and trying to get all of his skills up, and knowing that the pressures of being an heir and needing to find someone respectable that is going to be the future queen kind of starts to weigh on him. So as you can see, he is currently practicing his dancing skill. He needs to work on that a little bit. So we are going to get him dancing here for a little while. And then once he levels up on that, we will go ahead and let him get himself into the kitchen so that he can grab himself a little bit of a bite to eat, because he is feeling a little bit hungry. Now, as we know in our last episode, Charlotte had decided that she wanted to have a child with George, her husband, and they actually are not technically supposed to have any more children. They didn't roll to be able to have more children. So I have checked that off as far as saving that whim for us to have a child together. I know that if we roll for them to be able to have a baby, they would be able to have a baby. That being said, if they decide to go ahead and woohoo on their own and they end up pregnant, that's kind of out of my control, but I'm not going to actively try to get them pregnant unless we roll for them to actually have a child. I'm just going to kind of leave that into the realm of the game kind of thing. But we're going to go ahead and send Nikolas down. We're going to let him go and get himself a little bit of something to eat here. And as you can see, they're in here and they're chatting a little bit. She, I think, is trying to convince George that she wants another child. And he's like, what do you mean? Like, we have Nikolas, a teenager. He's already about to enter into the marriage market. He's the heir. Why would we start all over again? And she's like, I just want a baby. I just miss having a little one. And I think that he is probably thinking to himself, like, and I think that she would just be like, I know, but I just miss having a little one. And I just think it's funny that, I think George would kind of be like, absolutely not. But I do think that Charlotte is just kind of missing having a little one. She's missing that baby fever. And I think she is going to be really romantic with him, and she's going to say, you're the sun and the moon and the stars of my life. And I just, I want us to be close, and I want us to expand our family. And he's thinking, no. We do have Nikolas in here. He is just getting himself a bite to eat here. And then it is going to be time for everyone to kind of start getting themselves ready towards getting towards bed. I am going, though, to have him work on just a little bit of etiquette. So we'll have him work on some etiquette by practicing a little bit of calligraphy. So he can do that for a little bit, and then I'm going to have him just write a letter to Scarlett. Now, he did make friends with Scarlett while he was in school, because as we know, the upper class do go to school, and so he has met Scarlett while he was attending high school. And so because of that, I think that he would maybe write her a letter. They aren't really close friends or anything like that. They are only acquaintances, but being that they do go to school together, I think that maybe she might have piqued his interest, and he maybe just wants to kind of get to know her a little bit better. So he's going to pen her a letter, and he's going to maybe try to just get to know her a little bit better, and he'll do that through maybe becoming a little bit of a pen pal with her. But for current, he is practicing his calligraphy, which is working on. You and George are just so cute together. Just thought I'd let you know. Okay, well, thank you for that. We appreciate that. We think they're cute together as well. They are currently getting a little bit of rest while he pens his calligraphy right now as he works on his etiquette skill. He, is priding himself in doing the best he can to try to get his skills up currently, even though he is really tired and he probably should be getting himself some rest as well. He's thinking, I have promised my parents that I would do my best to set an example for the others that are trying to enter the marriage market. They expect, obviously, a lot of him, being that he is the royal, and they want everyone else to kind of look to him as an example that needs to be set. So they expect him to excel at these things and for everyone else to kind of lead by his example. So he's really pushing himself hard to meet all of his skills and to do really well. So far he is by far the best one out of all of the Sims so far that I have played. In all of the rotations, he has done the best on his skills. He has gotten the most skills to the highest level out of the most of them. He is definitely doing the best. So I am quite proud of him and his progress. But he's currently penning a letter to Scarlett. He's letting her know that he would like to be pen pals with her, and he's just trying to get to know her, and he's going to go ahead and go and mail that letter off. So we'll get him to put that in the mailbox for her so that she can get that letter from him. And then we're going to go ahead and send him off to bed so that he can get a little bit of rest, because he is going to be straight shattered if we don't let him get a little bit of rest. And then we will go ahead once he is tucked into bed, and we will see everyone in the morning. So that'll be fantastic. So we are just going to allow him to head himself on up to his bed now. Actually, we'll probably let him stop off to the washroom really quick first and just have himself a little bit of a washroom break, and then he can tuck himself on into bed for the evening and get himself a little bit of rest. He seems to want or to think that he's going to sleep down here in the servants' quarters, but that is definitely not going to happen. So I'm just going to cue for him to come on upstairs here and go to the washroom, and then he can go to bed upstairs here in his bedroom. So let's go ahead and allow him to come on up here, and we'll get him to take care of himself, and then I will see you in the morning when he has awoken. All right, go ahead and finish your business there, Nikolas, and then you'll be able to tuck yourself into bed. It is seriously late. He's like, I'm just taking my time. I'm not in any rush. Well, you need to be in a rush because your energy is in the red. All right, so go ahead and tuck yourself in there, and I will see you in the morning. All right, so it is the next morning. As you can see, Charlotte is up. She's just working on a little bit of her charisma. She is trying to make sure that she works on this skill because, as we know, her being the queen, she does deal with a lot of people. She does have to make sure that she is charismatic and she can speak to the population, and that she's able to, reach everyone as charismatically as she can. And so she's practicing her speech, and she's making sure that she's eloquent in how she speaks to everyone. And as you can see, George is down here working on his logic. As we know, he is a bit of a genius. He likes to work on his logic. He likes to make sure that he is always working on keeping his mind sharp. He does need a little bit of fun, though. Actually, they both need a little bit of fun, so maybe I'll have them both come down and just do a little bit of dancing. I think that might help get their fun up a little bit. And once we get Nikolas up out of bed, I am going to have him practice on some singing, because he did practice dancing yesterday. He practiced some of his etiquette yesterday, but he didn't practice any singing. So we'll just go ahead and get him in his daily outfit, and then we'll have him practice on some singing, and we can get his singing skill up. So we'll just have him practice singing a couple of songs, and then after he's practiced singing a couple of songs, he can actually just practice singing in general. So he's just going to do some singing here, and then he'll practice some singing scales and make sure he can get his singing level up a little bit. And then we will have him probably go down and see about taking care of some of his needs. He is feeling really, really confident this morning. He woke up feeling really good. I think he is realizing he is making excellent progress on his skills, and he knows that, he's getting really close to the marriage market. He's really getting close to being eligible to find himself a bride and someone that he can spend his life with, and he's getting excited about that. I think he's realizing that part of his life is just right around the bend, and he's thinking it's really coming. It's really getting close. It's really near to me, about to being able to start going out there and meeting eligible bachelorettes and deciding who I like and figuring out who I'm going to spend my life with and courting. And I think he's realizing this is about to be extremely fun. What teenage boy is not going to get excited about going to balls and dancing with the ladies and flirting and carrying on with all of these different girls and wooing all of these different girls and courting all of these different girls and having them fawn over him? Of course he's going to be excited about that. And so I think he is feeling really confident in himself that he's gotten himself this far, and the fact that he's doing so well. But not only that, he knows that he's about to have a bunch of girls fawning over him, and not necessarily fighting over him, but I think part of him kind of hopes that maybe the girls will spat over him a little bit, and he'll cause a little bit of turmoil amongst all of the ladies that want to be with him. And so he is really starting to feel excited. I'm going to get him working on a little bit of his homework here. It looks like he does need to do a little bit of homework. And so we will, after he's done with his singing, have him work on his homework. The parents are just down here still getting a little bit of dancing in, but it does look like they both need to go and take care of their bladder needs. So I am going to just have them go ahead and do that. I do believe that Charlotte has to go into work a little bit later, so I'm going to make sure that she takes care of herself before she has to head off to work, because I don't want her needing, to be taking care of herself, and having these issues while she's trying to work. So we'll make sure that all of her needs are in the green before she has to head herself out of the house for the day, which is going to be fantastic for her to be taken care of. We'll just go ahead and get them both in their everyday outfit, and we will let them carry on. I don't know that George works. Actually, I think he does work, but his shift is a little bit later on. So we will be sending Nikolas off to school and Charlotte off to work, and it will just be George here at the house, and he'll be doing some things on his own while he waits for his shift to take place. So that'll be fantastic. We will just be hanging out with George for a little while the other two are at work, because they have a little bit of an earlier shift that they go in. So I'm just going to go ahead and get him to finish up his homework here, and then we will probably send him down to maybe get a bite to eat before he has to go into his school for the day. And Charlotte is just going to go ahead and go and check in on the kitchen as well and make sure everything's okay down there before she has to head on into work herself. So she just wants to make sure that everything down there is good, and that, the butler and the maid have been tending to the things that they need to tend to. Obviously, she runs a tight ship, and she wants to make sure that everything is being tended to like it needs to, which, why would she not? It is Love Day, it looks like, so they do want to do some romantic things. So maybe her and George will be able to spend a little bit of time being romantic with one another at some point today, which would be good for them. So hopefully they will find some time to carve out for one another, and they'll be able to spend a little bit of time together. I know that she has to go to work, and so does he, but I do want them to be able to spend a little bit of time together as a couple, just being romantic with one another, so that they will be able to have a good love day together. Currently, right now, they're just enjoying a little bit of breakfast together before they have to go off, or Charlotte has to go off to work. And George is pretty much just enjoying breakfast with her before he sends her off to work. And then he obviously will just be here at the house entertaining any guests that maybe show up while they're away. And then he will be heading himself off to work as well. So we will check and make sure that Nikolas doesn't need to come on down and get himself any breakfast. And then that will be good for us. Nikolas is like, actually, I do need to get some breakfast. I'm feeling quite hungry myself before I need to go into school, so we'll let him go ahead and grab himself a bite to eat as well. and that is going to be fantastic. So it does look like, I'm just looking now to see if we have some servants that have shown up, because it does look like she did call for a servant, but I don't see a servant in the house currently right now, so it doesn't look like the servant has shown up yet. So that's perfectly fine. We will just look for the servant whenever it finally decides to show up. So everything is a-okay. In the meantime, we are just going to allow Charlotte to go ahead and spend time with her family here before she has to head off to work. She's just sitting here with her husband. They're having a little bit of a conversation. She's asking him about his day and about what his plans are. And they are making some plans for later on for when they are both home. And Nikolas is just feeling a little bit dazed. I think he maybe has spent a little bit too much time doing his skill activities, and he's just kind of feeling a little bit off. But I am going to have him go ahead and clean up a little bit. Usually, the butler would do that, but Nikolas is really down to earth, and he doesn't mind cleaning up after himself, which I guess is, pretty noble. He's like, I don't mind kind of cleaning up, and I know we have a butler, but I'm perfectly okay with picking up some trash and throwing it away. So he's going to go ahead and throw that trash away, and then we will go ahead and have him just talk to his dad a little bit, and then we'll send him off to school. Oh, he's not going to be able to talk to Dad. He's going to have to go on into school. All right, well, you do that. Charlotte's just going to play a little bit of chess here, and then we will get her headed off to work. She's like, well, I guess I need to clean up too. I don't think you need to go and worry about that. You really do have a butler that can tend to those things, Charlotte. I think right now the only thing you really need to worry about is getting yourself a little bit of fun, because you have work later, and if you're not dealing with any fun, then I think that, to be completely honest, you are going to be a little bit tense when you come home from work. So we have several servants right now in the house. I am just going to go ahead and dismiss a couple of these servants because we don't need so many servants in the house. I think right now we have currently like 2 or 3 servants in the house, and that's just a little much. So I'm going to go ahead and dismiss these servants and let them go on home, and we have Charlotte getting ready to go to work here in the next hour. So we're going to let her go ahead and get herself ready for work. It does say that we are going to be needing to make a collection soon. I'm assuming that has to do with us collecting taxes, and I think that has to do with George. I think that's what George does, is he goes and he collects everyone's taxes. So while she is working and going and giving her speeches and things of that nature with her job, he will be getting himself ready to go and to collect everyone's taxes. So we absolutely love that. It does look like the Marchioness Driscoll has come over to visit. So I may have George go and give her a bit of an introduction and greet her and welcome her into the royal home here. Maybe they can have a little bit of a conversation, and I will just have them sit down and have a little bit of a talk. They can talk about some of the things and the current events. Obviously, we can have them get to know one another, because Charlotte is just heading off to work here. Right now, she's wanting to go and clean. I really wish she would not do that, and she would just let the servants do it. But George is going to head up here, and he's going to go and just have a little bit of a chat, though, with the Marchioness Goalie. It does take them quite some time to get up these stairs. And it looks like Nikolas is decorating for the dance. We're going to have him do some good decorations here. I want him to put out the best decorations ever. I think he would be really excited to participate and to do that. But unfortunately, it looks like everyone kind of thought his decorations were lame. And so that didn't necessarily go over well for him. And so it looks like his love day is not really going as planned for him, and I kind of hate that for him. It looks like George has come on into Nikolas's room and is greeting Marchioness Driscoll, but she's not actually in here yet, which is a little bit awkward. So here she comes now, and then I guess they're gonna sit in Nikolas's room and have a chat. I think maybe it would be better if they were in a less improper room. If they were maybe in a more formal room, it would probably be better. But they're going to sit in here and they're going to chat a little bit. He's going to discuss with her, how is your husband and how is your family? And she's going to say, oh, they're doing really well. And he's like, that is wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. Did you hear about the D'Alessandro family? And she's like, I did hear about them. And he's like, yeah, it's really such a great loss to their family that they've lost their child. And she's like, I really do hate that. And he's like, well, I heard that you have a new little girl. And she's like, I do have a new little girl. And he's like, that's wonderful news. So not only do you have the two that are entering into the market this year, but you've got another little one to kind of get ready to raise up to get her ready for the market when she becomes a teenager. And she's like, that is true. And he's like, that's very exciting for you. And she's like, yeah, it really is. And he's like, well, I really would like for your children to come and by sometime and meet Nikolas. And she's like, I would love for that to happen. And he's like, we'll have to plan a tea. And she's like, okay. And he's like, I'm sorry to run out on you, but I do have to go in for my shift at work. And she's like, no, that's absolutely fine. And he's like, I've just got to get myself a little bit ready here. So he's walked out. I don't actually know why he's walked out, because he's not actually getting himself ready for work. He's just being difficult for me. I think he is going to head back up and talk to her a little bit more. But we are going to have him just go and just chat with her a little bit more before he does have to go into work. I do want him to just chat with her a little bit about the arts. And again, I do think that he would tell her, I think that the Queen would absolutely love to have you guys over for a tea and for you to get your family to know Nikolas. And I do think that that is something that he's trying to plan with the Driscoll family. So I think that at some point that would be really great for them to kind of plan to take place. So maybe he can go back up and discuss that with her a little bit further before he has to go into work. Oh, now it's queuing for him to go to work. Well, you go up there and have that quick conversation with her, please. And then you can head off to work there, George. So he's like, I really do think that you need to plan a tea with my wife. The Queen would absolutely love to have you over for a tea. And she's like, I would love to do that. And he's like, that is wonderful. I will let her know that you're going to come around for a tea. And she's like, okay, great. And then it looks like they've talked a little bit about art here. So that's perfect. So he's going to tell her that he's going to let the Queen know that they are going to plan a tea. And he's like, I really do have to head off to work now. Please let yourself out. The butler will escort you out. And she's like, okay, sounds good. So he's going to go ahead and head off. He's let the butler know that Mr. Scully needs to be escorted out. So hopefully she'll leave as well, because, otherwise awkward. And we will see them when we get back. So Nikolas has now arrived home from school. It does look like the Discrolli, Marchioness Discrolli, is actually still here. The butler is actually in the room with her. I guess he has probably come in to let her know that, he needs to be escorting her out. But Nikolas has arrived home, and he's like, oh, I don't know who you are. And so he's like, hi, my name is Nikolas. And she's like, oh, hello. And so he's going to give her a little bit of a gentlemanly introduction. He wants to meet her. And she's like, we were actually I was just talking to your father not long ago about you meeting my family. And he's like, oh, I would love that. And she's like, yeah, we've decided that we're going to set up a tea so that you can meet my children. And he's like, that would be fantastic if you wanted to do that. I would love to actually do that. And she's like, I think the children would love to meet you as well. And he's like, do they go to the school? And she's like, they do actually. They're just starting. And he's like, oh, well, I'm sure that I'll get to meet them at the school. And she's like, I'm sure that you would be meeting them soon, yes. And he's like, I will have to look for them. And she's like, I think they would love that. So they're just having a nice little conversation about the children and how they're going to have this tea set up soon with the Queen, and that obviously she would like for them to get to know one another, and that it would be really nice for her children and him to obviously meet one another and get on. Of course, she would want them to do that because obviously she has Lola, and secretly she is hoping that Lola would be able to make a match with him. But she would never come right out and say that because, that's taboo. But that is secretly what she's hoping for. But she's decided that she's going to go ahead and go. He's just going to tell her goodbye and see her off and welcome or thank her for coming. He is going to share a little bit of gossip with her before she goes, and she's like, well, thank you for that information. And he's like, absolutely. It goes around, and she's like, I suppose it does. And he is just going to head off and get himself to the washroom now. We are desperate for a wee, and then we're going to let him go and get himself a little bit to eat here. And then we are going to see the parents. They are obviously back home, and they're wanting to spend a little bit of time with one another. But we are, as we know, going to need to soon be doing a random selection roll for this family. It is going to be very important that we do that because, as we know, we have to find out what happens for each family in each rotation. They have to roll the random selection roll to find out what it is that they are going to be having happen to them. But for right now, he's just giving a call to Scarlett. He's talking with her a little bit. He is chatting with her because he's wanting to make sure she got his letter. And I think she's letting him know that, of course, she got his letter. She's really thankful that, he took the time out of his day to send her a letter. And I think that's wonderful. I really wish, he weren't on the phone, but that's fine. But it looks like we have the queen who has gone off to bed, and I'm just going to get George to come down and grab himself a bite to eat here. And we're going to go ahead and let Nikolas get his homework done, and then we'll send him off to bed as well. We might actually let him work on a little bit more of his etiquette skill if he has a little bit of time, depending upon how his energy level is. He is just making sure that he gets all of his homework done before he works on his calligraphy, because as we know, he does want to make sure he gets his grades up in school. That is very important to him, that he is making good grades and he's very studious, because it's not just his skills that are important to him for the marriage market. It's also very important to him that he does well in school, and education is vital, and it is part of him being able to be accepted into secondary, or I guess I should say university. So, he's like, I've got to do well in my, secondary school if I'm going to get into university. So he is doing everything he can to make good grades here. He's feeling super inspired, and I absolutely love that he is feeling that way. I feel like, he is really making some fantastic progress. He hasn't really had much success for his love day. He had a pretty rough go with the decorations at school, and he really just didn't do that great. And then he doesn't really have a love interest currently to speak of. So he doesn't really have a way to meet his love day goals, which is unfortunate for him. And I don't necessarily know that George and Charlotte have really met their love day goals either, for the simple fact that, they spent majority of their day at work, separate from one another. And then when she got home from work, she went straight to bed. I don't know that they've actually met their goals either. So he did finally finish his homework. He is now going to work on a little bit of calligraphy and work on that etiquette skill. We'll go ahead and get him working on that so that hopefully he can get some skill leveling up in that department, because we do want him gaining in that skill as well. We are hopeful that he's going to do well. Charlotte has just come in to check on him. She's like, how are you doing with your skills? And he's like, Mom, I'm doing really well. I've only got singing, dancing, and etiquette left. And I am working really hard to get my grades up in school. And she's like, Nikolas, I'm so proud of you. You have no idea. And he's like, really? And she's like, absolutely. So she's going to go ahead and get herself, look at her. Okay, they're getting a little bit of romance. Look at them dance together. Okay, I absolutely love that. Taking time out to dance in the kitchen. And he's like, okay, you guys are embarrassing me. I don't necessarily want to be privy to this. I'm going to excuse myself to bed. So we're going to go ahead and send Nikolas off to bed. The parents are spending some quality time together in the kitchen, romancing one another, which we love. But I do think that I am going to go ahead and send the parents off to bed as well. Let everyone go ahead and get a little bit of rest. And then in the morning, we will be doing the random selection roll to find out what it is that this family is going to be facing, because as we know, it is going to be time for that to take place. So for now, we'll just go ahead and send everyone off to their beds and let them get some much needed rest. They have to climb so many stairs to get there, but they're getting there, slowly but surely. So I will see you in the morning. All right, so it is time for our random selection roll. There are 1 to 5 things that we roll from, as we know. And if we go ahead and go to our random generator roll, we will be rolling or generating between 1 to 5. So if we go from 1 to 5 here and we give that a generate, we're going to get a 4. And 4 is a disaster. And in the disaster section, we have 10 to choose from. So if we go to our random generator and we go from 1 to 10 and give that a generate, we get a 1. And that says, our household gets very sick. Roll for every member to see if the member lives or dies. For each sim, roll a d3. If they 1, they survive. 2, they go crazy and they have to get all new traits and aspirations. And if they get a 3, they die. So we aren't going to roll a d3. We're just going to generate for each one. So I'm going to go 1 to 3 and I'm going to do it 3 times. So for the first one, it is going to be Queen Charlotte. She gets a 2 and she's going to have to get all new traits and an aspiration. The second one is George. He's going to die. And the third one is Nikolas. And he gets a 3 and he's going to die. Oh my God. All right, so Charlotte is going to live, but she's going to go crazy and get new traits and an aspiration. And George and Nikolas are both going to die. I guess Charlotte would go crazy with both of them dying. This is really bad news for us. Not only is our heir dying, who is the person that was going to be going into the market, but now we have no one to go into the marriage market for the royal family, and we have just lost our heir, which I would say basically takes this family out of the running for being in the marriage market and basically no longer being part of the story. That being said, oh, it is Christopher, not Nikolas. You know what? I'm just really confusing myself here. So with Nikolas dying, basically there's no heir to speak of, unless, I don't know. I'm just shocked. I don't really know what to say. I don't really know what to do, but let's go ahead and jump into the game, and we are going to take away George and Nikolas, and we will carry on and see what's going to happen moving forward. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to kill George first. We will take him and then we will take Nikolas. And we are going to kill both of them. Obviously, Charlotte is going to be losing both of them. She's going to be really upset about the loss of both of them. She is going to be a queen with no heir. Having said that, generally, we would have to find someone else to take up the title. Look at him. He is just like having a heart attack. Oh my God. Poor George. Oh, I can't stand it that this is having to happen. If that is the case, the next one in line to take this role would be the Driscoll family. They're the highest level in this story, title-wise, that would basically take the title. So if that is the way this has to go, they would take on over the title and they would become the king and queen and prince and princesses is how that would happen. But that being said, I don't know if that's what's going to happen or not. But we are going to kill Nikolas now, and we are going to see how that goes for him. Obviously, we're going to be taking both of them away. They are now dying in 1840. They are leaving behind Queen Charlotte alone in this house. I know that Principal George and Queen Charlotte did woohoo. There is a possibility that she may be pregnant from that. Oh, he just fell right over and died. Oh my gosh. So, I mean, there is a possibility that she could be having a baby because they did woohoo as part of this whole Love Day thing. And if that is the case, she could be having a child and could potentially have a son. And yep, she did just say she's eating for 2. Okay, so she is eating for 2. So she is having a baby. So she is still in the running to keep this family going, and she is still going to be queen. She potentially could have a son. I'm not going to take her being a queen away until we know for a fact what her baby is, because if she has a son, he could be an heir. So we will go from there. If her baby dies in childbirth, is not a boy, then the Driscollis would take over this family as king and queen, and they would be the king and queen, and she would no longer be queen of this realm, or these lands, or however you want to say it. But for now, she is still the queen, and she is now pregnant and is expecting. We will see how that goes. But George has died in 1840. Nikolas is dying in 1840. We are going to grab up both of their urns, and she'll just put them in her inventory. She is pregnant, so we will be seeing her giving birth soon, and we will find out what happens with that and find out what is going to happen further on in this story with her and what's going to be happening. But unfortunately, this has taken a tragic turn, and these events are shocking, just shocking, that we have lost Nikolas. He was doing so well. He was so excited for the things of his future, and he was doing amazing things, and he was getting so close to the marriage market, and then he just straight up died. So we have unfortunately lost Nikolas, for he is no longer part of our running. Charlotte is unfortunately, well, right now she doesn't look it, but she is distraught over the loss of her husband and her son. She is thrilled right now because she's pregnant, so overall she is feeling really happy thoughts about that, but she is really, really saddened by the loss of her husband and her heir. And I think that, she is really unsure what's going to happen now. She has no one to enter into the marriage market. She's a widow, and she's still going to have to carry on and hold a marriage market, even though she doesn't have anyone to introduce into it. And I think that is really upsetting for her, but unfortunately that is sometimes the way it goes. But that being said, I am going to go ahead and leave this episode here. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you are notified when new episodes go live in the future. And I will see you guys in our next episode of Bridgesimton Challenge. And until next time, I'm going to go ahead and fly for now. Bye, Ravens.